is the global news update on Top Accolade News. The headlines: Trump orders crackdown on homelessness and crime in Washington, D.C. South Korean president grants pardon to ex-Justice Minister Cho Kuk. Voter list controversy heats up ahead of Bihar state election. Taiwan seeks lower U.S. tariff after Trump imposes 20% levy. We start today with the focus in politics. Trump orders crackdown on homelessness and crime in Washington, D.C. U.S. President Donald Trump has vowed to remove homeless people from Washington, D.C., ordering hundreds of federal officers into the streets to tackle what he calls out-of-control crime. In a series of social media posts, Trump said the homeless must move out immediately to shelters far from the capital, promising a safer and more beautiful city. The move has drawn criticism from D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser, who insists violent crime is at a 30-year low and slammed comparison to Baghdad as false. Federal data shows overall crime in D.C. has dropped significantly, though homicides remain high. Trump is set to unveil his plan at a White House news conference, with National Guard deployment still under consideration. Still in politics, South Korean president grants pardon to ex-Justice Minister Cho Kuk. South Korean President Lee Myung will pardon former Justice Minister Cho Kuk, restoring his eligibility for public office after he was jailed for academic fraud. The move, part of a National Liberation Day amnesty for over 2,100 people, could revive Cho's influence as a liberal political figure and boost the small parties allied with Lee's ruling Democratic Party. Supporters says the pardon corrects political targeting, while critics accuse Cho of undermining fairness and justice. The decision comes as Lee's approval rating slips and includes high-profile pardon, including ex-lawmaker Lee Myung and several conservative figures in what the government calls an effort to promote unity and economic recovery. Moving on in politics, voter list controversy heats up ahead of Bihar state election. India's election commission is facing fierce criticism after releasing updated draft electoral rolls for Bihar ahead of November state election, with 6.5 million names removed during a month-long special intensive revision. Opposition parties and election watchdog allege the process was rushed, error reading, and disproportionately targeted Muslim voters in border districts. Critics says the list contains wrong photos, duplicate entries, and names of dead people, while genuine voters risk being excluded. The Supreme Court is reviewing the matter as thousands in one of India's poorest states scramble to correct records before the September 1st deadline. Moving to economy. Taiwan seeks lower U.S. tariff after Trump imposes 20% levy. Taiwan's cabinet is pushing for lower tariff after U.S. President Donald Trump imposed a 20% tariff on the island. Negotiations with Washington are ongoing, aiming for a more reasonable rate, while a U.S. national security probe under Section 232 of the Trade Expansion Act continues. The tariffs targeting key exports like semiconductors, electronics, and ICT products could reshape trade ties, as Taiwan currently holds the U.S.'s sixth largest trade deficit, driven mainly by high-tech goods. You're watching the Global News Update on Top Accolade News. Do stay with us. Still to come. Thanks for staying with us. In international relations, Australia to recognize Palestinian state at UN summit. Australia will formally recognize a Palestinian state at the United Nations summit in September, with Prime Minister Anthony Albanese calling a two-state solution humanity's best hope for ending the Gaza conflict. The move aligns Canberra with France, the UK, and Canada, but breaks it with the US position, which opposes recognition outside a peace deal. The announcement comes as Israel prepares a renewed offensive in Gaza City, drawing warnings from Australia and New Zealand that the operation could breach international law. Albany stressed that Hamas would have no role in any future Palestinian state, citing assurances from President Mahmoud Abbas and the Palestinian Authority. Moving to conflicts. Israeli airstrike kills 5 journalists at Gaza Al-Shifa hospital. Hamas has accused Israel of committing a brutal crime after an airstrike hit a journalist tent in the courtyard of Al-Shifa hospital in Gaza City, killing 5 media workers. Photographers alongside with the camera assistant also died in the attack, which Hamas said is the deadliest assault on journalists in any war. The group claimed the killings followed prior threats against reporters and signaled an attempt to silence coverage ahead of a possible large-scale massacre in Gaza, with a death toll of journalists in the conflict now at 232. Moving to entertainment, comedian Kathy Griffin opens up on third facelift. Comedian Kathy Griffin has revealed she recently underwent her third facelift, joking on her Talk Your Head Off podcast about the Daily Mail headline describing her face as very taut. The outspoken star credited Beverly Hills surgeon Dr. Ben Talay, who also worked on singer Sia, and admitted the procedure was far from painless. Griffin, who has long been candid about past cosmetic surgeries, including a nose job at 26, also addressed recent paparazzi shots of her barefaced workout, quipping she's only getting photographed because she's alive. Now in sports. Crystal Palace edged Liverpool on penalties to claim Community Shield. Crystal Palace defeated Premier League champions Liverpool 3-2 on penalties to win the Community Shield after a thrilling 2-2 draw at Wembley. Palace keeper Dean Henderson saved spot kicks from Alexis Max Allister and Harvey Elliott, while Mohamed Salah missed his opening attempt. Justin Devaney, who volunteered for the decisive kick, sealed the win to give Palace their third straight Wembley triumph. That concludes our global news update for today. Stay tuned for more global news and developments. Thanks for joining us. I am Ojorumi Okocha. Connect and engage with us on all our social media handles. Do have a wonderful day.